1 second. All right, we are now being recorded.
Good evening, everyone. So my name is Yelena, and this is going to be our second Watson Analytics session. So here is the agenda for tonight. We are going to discuss custom visualizations, dashboards, infographics, and we're going to talk about the Storybook, how you create it, how you use it, and I'll show you Watson Analytics Exchange site where you can download the Storybook templates, and I'll show you how you're going to work with your team for assignment 5, and there is a bonus, but you have to pay undivided attention all the way through the end. Alright, so let's continue. And I need to remind you something very important. You're not going to use the back and forward buttons on your browser. Just imagine they don't exist anymore. Anything that you delete will be gone forever. There is no recycle bin. And you're going to use the menu instead of using the back and forward buttons, right? So today I'm going to show you the custom visualization. So let's go ahead and let me share my screen. Share my screen, and I'm going to start with Watson Analytics. Okay, there we go. So now I'm going to go back to my personal folder. As you may remember, the way we did it last time is that whenever you click on a data set like this, right? When I click on the data set like this, I was getting a list of suggested explorations that I might want to explore, right? I could click on one of those and it will create a new discovery workbook, right? Today I'm going to show you something different. Instead, we are going, instead of doing this, what I just did right now, we're going to create our own custom exploration, custom visualization. So I'm going to close this out. I'm going to do don't save. And instead, watch what I'm going to do. I'm going to click here. Then I'm going to scroll down the page. Do you see this? Create your own custom visualizations. So what I could do here is I could just click on anything I want. Perhaps let's pick the heat map, right? So here it is. So now my visualization is empty. Here I have the data tray at the bottom, and here these are called the data slots. So whenever you see a little asterisk, it means that the slot is required. So what I have to do right now is I have to drag and drop the fields from the data tray into the data slots, right? So this field is required. So perhaps I want to do the student GPA, right? So there we go. Right now it's just showing me changing GPA. But what it's doing, it's just doing account distinct right now. What I want to do instead is perhaps I want to do the average, but this is gonna give me the overall average. For right now, it's because I did not specify anything else. That's the only thing I specified, right? So let me right click here, summarize. Watch what I'm doing. I right click, summarize, and now I could change it, right? If I wanted to, I could change it perhaps per count, right? I can change it to count, but this is not really what I want to do. So this is how I can change my field. I can delete it and drag and drop another field, or I can just change it here. Right? I can just select a different field I want to look at. Overall GPA. But I'm not interested just looking at the overall GPA. Perhaps I want to look at the overall GPA by gender. Right? So each row is a gender. See this? Each row, right? It's supposed to be average GPA for male and female, right? So heat is a color. Okay? Now what I could do is I could also specify the columns, and the columns is going to be the class size. I just know that it's a categorical variable. There it is. See this? It's giving me the average GPA for class size for gender, right? So here, basically, I'm going to use this type of visualization if I want to see the relative difference between GPA, right? among the people that fall in a certain category. I may not care about the actual number, but I want to see relatively, right? The different color code. The darker means the higher average GPA. The lighter means the lower, right? I don't know what the actual numbers are. So now what I'm gonna do is suppose that I want to see something where I care what the numbers are. There is another visualization that I'm about to show you. This is called there is a grid one, and then there is a summary table. Let's click at the summary table. So you have a required slot. It means that you will not see any visualization until the here required slot is satisfied, right? So I can go ahead and I can select aggregated by, right? So I can put the county here, and then here I can put the GPA, something like that. And it's supposed to give me the average GPA per county, right? So let's take a look at that. So basically what I have to put the student GPA. Let me see, let me find it. Okay, here it is. Let's see what's gonna happen now. Oops. Student, yep. So here it is. Now I got it reversed. I see that I got it reversed. I should do this the other way around. Okay, because what you have it in here, this is a measurement. So this is a student GPA, and in here I should select county, right? So basically what you need to do is, if you're using custom visualizations, you'll just have to play around, right? You have to play around. So I just selected the county, done, and it's now showing me the average student GPA and the average student GPA per county. It's refreshing the page. Okay, and here what I actually end up doing is that I ended up selecting. I can select both measures, and I can delete my measure, and I can filter the data, and so on. Right? Like that's what I'm doing right now. I could filter, and I can do a bunch of stuff here. Now I'm not sure what it did at the moment, but okay, I see what it did. The measures, I should uncheck this, and I should put my county. Yes, I can put my county. Anyway, so we want a student GPA, right, which is a measure, and then here we want to put a county. Yes, so I'm going back in here, and I can put my county, right? Or I could do this. I can just type it in and select my field, right? So it's supposed to list my counties here. This is what I want, and in here, I want my GPA, right? Overall GPA. That's what I want to do. There we go. And well, this thing here, I want to delete it. This one should be deleted, right? Anyhow, so the whole idea is here you want to play around, and similarly, you want to create a separate table like this for perhaps gender, right? You can select gender here, just to put in the multiplier slot. This is your gender, right? Oops, multiplier, and then you can just drag and drop the gender. See this? So this one, take a look at this. Measures, I have it checked overall GPA. I should uncheck the county. There we go. That should fix it. Done. Alright? So here, this is what I have. I have a separate table for males and for females. This slot is optional. This slot is required. I have to specify the measure. So here, basically, I use this when I care what my actual numbers are, right? So let's go ahead, let's rename this tab. And I'm going to rename it as GPA by county. And I'm going to rename this guy right here as I'm just going to call it heat map. But this is not a descriptive name. You don't want to use this name in your in your actual papers that you're going to do, but I'll just save it. Alright, so now what we're going to do is we have to save this display, and I'm going to do save as, which I'm going to do save as, and I have to select personal folder, and I'm going to do risk students discovery. But I have to pick a name that I don't have already, right? I cannot have two files with the same name. Okay, there we go. So now I'm gonna do save it. Right, so that's one file. Two discoveries. Now I can do something else in here. Let me click, and this time I'm just gonna pick them up. Take a look here. What it's doing is that it has an internal repository of the geographic locations. And in this case, we've got the New York State, and we have the counties. Here are the counties of the New York State. That's how our data is for this specific example. Here, I can have multiple variables. Well, because now what I'm showing is I'm showing the county, and then I'm using the color code to show the absences. So the darker the color code, the higher is the number of absences. But here it's doing the sum. It's not really what I want. So what I can do is right click, then go to summarize, and you can change this to average. Average number of absences. And here, this is a bubble. Bubble size is going to be the student cost. And then I can also use my other variable as a color code, right? The bubble color code. And for the purpose of this demonstration, I can just pick anything that is numeric. So I'm not using the GPA in here, right? So I can just find it here and just drag and drop into this. This is called a slot, overall GPA. There we go. So this is showing us multidimensional, right? Overall GPA, that's going to be the size of the color code of this little bubble, right? And I've got the county, and I've got the student cost, right? What I could do here, this is called a hierarchy in my data, because if I right click, see this go up. If I click and go up, I will get the numbers for the whole state. It's going to give me all counties within the state. And I can just drill down, right? So hierarchy allows me to go in drilling up and down. And also what I could do is I could hover over a specific point, and it's going to give me the average number of absences. The student cost, I actually should change it to average, and overall average GPA, right? So remember it. To change the aggregation in single location, I can just right click here, right click and change it from here, right? Summarize, and I'm going to change to average. On the other hand, if I went here at the data tray and changed the field property to the data tray, my change would have been applicable to the whole workbook, all tabs in the workbook, right? So let me just go ahead and save this tab as map, right? And I'm doing several visualizations intentionally because we are going to create a display. We're going to create a display today and Storybook, right? So let's go ahead and let's name it, what do you call it? Map. Let's call it map, right? Or, all right, here it is. This is my map. I've got the GPA by county, and I've got the heat map, right? So now what I could do is, I can do, if I want to show the part of the whole, right, part of the whole, then I can use my pie chart. Pie charts are useful to show the part of the whole, and then here I can select the segments. Like for example, in this case, I want the class rank to be my segment, and the size would probably be, perhaps we can do the number of students. Okay, how do you do the number of students? This is really tricky. Let me show you. To count the number of students, you actually have to count the rows, right? If you click on this data tray over here and scroll it down, Watson Analytics creates this variable for you automatically. It calls it row. Currently, it doesn't show in the data tray. So what you have to do is you have to click here and check it, right? Then rows rows becomes available. And what we do now, we close this and we go down, and it should be added all the way to the end. And I'm going to drag and drop here. So what I'm doing basically here is I try to display the number of students in each class rank, right? Different color code is used for different class rank. And now I have some options. If I hover here, it tells me how many students fall into this slice here. Now I could change the formatting. There is variations here. Well, I can choose what I want to show. I can show hide labels and so on. And here it's a variation, right? And then I can change how my numbers appear, and I can show the percentages instead of numbers. That's probably what I want to show, because for the pie chart, it's useful to show the relative size. However, if I was looking at the counties, I would probably want to use a bar plot, because a pie chart might not work well when you have a lot of categories, right? It might not be as readable. And here I can just change the background and the foreground and the element codes. Yeah. So you can just play around with your favorite color, and you can put a border around this and so on. So now this is going to be our, I'm just gonna call it as a pie chart. Right, so I did that, and I'm going to save it as always, and I'm going to do more visualization. I'm going to do another one, and I'll do the grid. So that one I did not show you last time, right? See, this is a grid, and here the grid has multiple dimensions as well. Now here I can specify what my cells are, and in this case I want to count the number of students. So I have to pick the rows. Oh, okay, cells are going to be the rows, because that's going to be the count. Now, rows and columns. And I'm going to pick, perhaps, let's pick the class rank. So each column is going to be a class rank, and every row is going to be the county. So what I'm doing here, I'm just basically displaying the number of students for each quartile rank in a county. And if this is blank, it means that there are no students that fall into the fourth quartile rank in this specific county. Okay? That means they're known. And I'm going to call it as a grid, right? Grid. So now what I have is, I have five visualizations, right? What I'm going to do right now is that I'm going to create my display. Well, it's going to lead us to the storybook discussion, but before we can create a storybook, we have to create our displays, and we have to really plan carefully, right? We need to plan in which order we want to show our findings. So let's go ahead and go to the landing page. I'm going to go to the display, and I'm going to I'm going to reuse these two displays that we created during the last class. And in addition to that, I'm going to create another one. And I'm going to click here, New Display, and I'm going to call it, let's say, Risk Student Finding 3, right? This is our third display. And I'm going to hit Create. Now what I'll do is, I have an option to choose the layout. I'm going to pick this one. And now what I can do is, I can create a new display, or I can reuse the displays that I already created. But keep in mind, if you create a new discovery here, it won't be available anywhere else outside this display. It won't be available anywhere else. If you want your discovery to be reusable, you need to create it on the Discovery tab. Alright? So let's go ahead and go to personal here. And remember what I saved it, right? Well, see this, there is also a date. So if I didn't remember the name, I remember that this is what I did today, right? So now it's loaded, and what I'm going to do here, I'm going to drag it here. What you want to line up your mouse cursor with an arrow, right? That way you don't have to do any layout, any adjustments. Now what I'll do is, so this is showing me GPA by county. I'm going to put my grid here, and I'm going to put my heat map here, and I'm going to put my pie chart here, right? So I've got 4 visualizations here. Okay, so, and I'm gonna do another tab, and I'm gonna add my map in here. Right. So I've got 2 tabs. This is a display with 2 tabs. Oops, see this? It's because I did not keep my, this is what happens when I don't line up the mouse with the arrow. Now let's delete this, and I have to drag and drop again. But you want to make sure that the mouse, right, that the cursor is lined up, is on top of the little arrow. There we go. Okay, so now it's going to rename it as map. Okay, so this is a map. And, well, I'm just gonna call it as tables. Right? Well, anyway, you should, when you work on your assignment, you should use a descriptive name, right? You should use something that you will remember later on what you did. Now, see that this is my this is one of my displays, and I'm gonna save it. So this is okay. Personal save. Okay, I want you to pay attention here. You see the filters, right? I can apply the filters to a single tab, or I can apply the filters to the whole display, right? Like, as you may recall, in our last class, I click here, right? I clicked on the filters, and I filtered it by the county. So if I drag this here to all tabs, right? And then if I specify the county, you can check on the map, right? By looking on the map, you can see that the filter actually is working. Take a look at this. I want to select several values. 1, 2, 3, right? I selected 3, and then when I return to my map, right, I only see 3 counties that I selected. 1, 2, 3, right? I can also apply the filter to the single tab, right? So this is something that I can do if I have a dashboard. I have multiple tabs. I can arrange my visualization based on a topic, right? So usually if I was doing this for grading, I would have had a separate tab for the cost, separate tab for the absences, separate tab for the GPA, something like that, right? So let's go ahead and let's clear it, right? And if I clear the filter, the change will be applied to both tabs, right? But if instead, well, I cannot just drag and drop, but if instead I define the filter on a single tab, then it would apply to the single tabs. And let's now delete this. And I explained it, I showed you this for a reason. And the reason is right now I'm going to show you the infographics. So you'll see the difference. Let's click here. This takes us back to the landing page. And I'm going to click on this as a display. And right, I'm going to create new display. This time I'm going to select infographic. And the main difference in here is that I have a single page. So I'm unable to apply the filter to the group of visualization. It's either going to be a single visualization or everything. And I'll show you what I mean by single visualization. But let's first go to the personal, right? And I have some visualizations that I have not used, right? I believe I have not used, well, I have used all of them, right? But it's okay. For the purpose of this presentation, I can repeat. So let's just go ahead and put this here. So this is a pie chart, right? So now, this is what I meant here. I can click here, and I go to the focus mode, and I got my data tray, so I can define a filter here. And this filter that I define here would be applicable to just this specific visualization. Alternatively, I can apply my filter here. It will be applicable to all visualizations. However, when I showed you the display, I could apply the filter to a single tab, right? I cannot do that here. There are no tabs, right? So this is the main difference. And let's go ahead and save it. Save as. Oops. Okay, now I'm gonna save it as Risk Student Infographic. Infographic, right? I'm gonna click on save, and I'm gonna save it in my personal folder. Remember the rules, right? We're saving everything in our personal folders, right? And then I'll show you how to share with team. We'll get to it. Okay, so now what I could do here, I could also add visualizations on the fly, right? I can also do it here just by doing this, new discovery. See this? If I click on new discovery, I can pick my data set, right? Or alternatively, I could type my question here, and Watson would do the search against all the data set in my folder. But instead, right now, I'm gonna pick this, and I'm going to do the plot that I have not done this before, right? Let's see which one I have not shown you today. I can do the. Okay, we can do the bar plot perhaps, right? So let's go ahead and click here. Well, right now I see nothing, and I see nothing because this is the required slot, because you see this little asterisk, right? It means that this is the slot is required. You have to have something in there in order for the plot to show. So usually for the bar height, you probably want to pick you could pick the numeric variable usually. So let's do that. Let's just pick the numeric for this example. And I'm gonna pick again the GPA, or well, yeah, let's just pick the student GPA. So that's going to be the bar height. Well, right now I see one bar. Because I did not specify the bars, I did not specify anything in here, right? So that's the only required field. However, I'm not interested in this. What I want to see is perhaps, let's see, the student GPA by the number of absences, right? So this is the student GPA, average GPA by the number of absences. Well, it's not quite accurate, but, well, I would have to check what it's doing in the aggregation. But anyhow, this is the average GPA and based on the number of absences. Okay, now what I could do is I could add a color, and for the color, perhaps I could pick the class rank, or I can pick anything that, well, I'm interested in selecting the categorical variable right now. So let's do this. Okay. So it's doing a separate plot per gender. What I could do here is that, look, I go to the format, and I can do the variation, and I like to see it stacked. That's my preference, right? So that's what I'm gonna keep. And also, I'm satisfied with the numbers, and just for the sake of change, I can add a border, right? And I can also add the background color if I like, right? I'm just selecting it randomly here. Well, what you do is You just need to like play around and select the colors that you like. But I'm just showing you what can be done, and then it's going to be up to you what you do. Take a look at this. I can also highlight the certain points just by checking on checking, right? So that's gonna be highlighting. And I could also exit this view, right? And usually it will remind me that I have something highlighted, and then you just unhighlight it, right? Usually I'll get a reminder. Okay, so now I filled up 2 slots. I still have 2 more, right? So I can go in and pick something that we created last time. This is a reuse, right? So I'm going to, what did we do last time? We created the driver, the risk factors of the student risk, right? Remember, the main factor was the number of absences. Then we also did the number of absences by gender plot. So I'm gonna do this, right? So I added a couple visualizations from last time, and I'm gonna hit save, right? I'm saving. So this is my infographic. Now I'm ready to do my storybook, and I'll show you how to get started. And then I'll show you also what I actually have done. Okay, so now pay attention because this is new. Look, new display. And I have to point out that this is important. One reason we're using this academic edition for this class is because the other free edition does not support the storybook feature. We want to use the storybook. So let's go ahead and let's say student findings. Student findings story, right? I'll just call it like this. Expert storybook, and I'm gonna hit create. Okay. Basically, the whole purpose of the storybook is to tell a story. When you open this for the first time, you might see this little tour. So just go through this tour and read through all pages. It will help you learn more, right? What we're doing here, and it may give you some ideas. But for right now, I'm going to close. So what I see here is that this is my storybook name, right? And I can rename it. Here, I can add a brief description, but keep in mind you have 260 characters limit, right? So I just do student data findings. You want to put something that is descriptive. Save it. Here, I can just select my picture. Right, this is my picture, and I'm going to put the one with graduation caps. Here we go, right? And you're probably going to put a picture that is related to what you're doing in your assignment. Now, what's going to happen now is, similar to display, the storybook has 2 modes, the edit mode and the view mode. Right now, if I just play my storybook, if I just preview it, I will not see anything because I have not done anything, right? It's just empty. There are no tab findings, right? Nothing. 0 data set, 0 findings. Because I have not done anything, really. I'm going to click on a pencil now, and I'm going to start doing something. Each tile here, this is called the tab finding. So what we need to do is we need to drag and drop the display or infographics that we want to use, right? What you put here is going to be the first thing that the end user will see when they preview the story. So this is what we created today. I'm going to drag and drop here, right? It's going to be our first tab finding. And of course, you can rename here, right? You can change name. Now what I'll do is, this is our infographic, right? And then I'm going to reuse the work from last class. This one. and then I'm gonna reuse this one, right? This is from the last demonstrations in all sessions, right? Session 9080 and 904041. All right. So now I'm going to go ahead and save this. Always save it. And see this, at this point, I didn't really do anything. I just drag and drop, right? What I want to see. What now I could do is I can tap on my visualization and I can add the thumbnail. You probably want the thumbnails as closely as possible matches the visualizations that you have in your in your display. So see here, I selected this, and I'm gonna scroll down and click on choose, right? And I can keep going and do that for every single tile that I edit. Let's save it. What else I could do is I could add, this is called annotation. So basically the annotation is an explanation about my visualization. So to do this, I click here, and now it took me to my to the page of my storybook, right? So this is the first. This is what my user will see, right? And this is something to keep in mind, that the more visualizations you have on a tab, the longer the tab may take to load, right? So sometimes 4 visualizations might not be a good idea. Well, it depends. It depends. All right. So here, let's close this. What I could do, I could add this explanation. I could add an explanation that would be applicable to both of these tabs, right? So let's just do this explanation. Again, here I'm showing you how to do it, but when you actually do it, you're going to do what makes sense to you, right? Okay, so here what I did was I added text, and I'm gonna click on OK. Right? I added some text here. Now let's see what's gonna happen. I'll save it, and I'm going to play it as an end user. I'm gonna click on View. Okay. Expert Tab Findings. Expert Tab Finding is the display that I added, the displays and the infographics that I just added to my storybook. These are called tab findings. So when I click on this, the first thing that I expect to see is this tile, right? So let's see what happens. Expert, I'm clicking on this. Oops, I should be able to preview it. Oh, there we go. I click on this. So you see that this is a text explanation one. This is a text that I added when I was in the edit mode, and this is called annotation. It will show, if I go back to my second tab here, this will still show. This text here will still show. Now, let's select stop it. Sometimes it just takes a little bit of time, but anyhow. And it's also because of the bandwidth. It's because when I'm sharing it, right, when I'm screen sharing, I'm taking bandwidth as well. So anyway, this here, this explanation will show regardless of which tab I choose. This is my tab finding one. Remember that I had 4 tiles, right? So when I click on this arrow here, it should take me to my second tile, right? It should take me to the second tile now. Well, it's a little bit taking its time, but what I expect to see is go to the second visualization that I added. Well, okay. And here at the bottom, you see how many, see here, it lists the displays and the data sets that were used to construct the displays. Okay? That's what it's doing now. Apparently it's stuck a little bit on loading. Well, I can show you the slides while it's doing that. Oops. Okay. So remember, we went through the custom visualizations, right? So just remember, I summarized everything on the slide for you. And this is another one that we did not actually do, but this is called the packed bubble plot. And I explained here when you use it, you can show the a relationship among values of numeric variables. Like, for example, I selected the class rank, and I want to show the number of students per class rank, but I also want to use a different color code for the number of absences. So like you see here, I have 4 circles, right? I have 4 circles for each. I have several circles for each class rank, right? But I have the different color codes. This is first quartile, another first quartile, but the color code represents a different number of absences, right? So let's see if it's finished. Apparently, sometimes it happens, so nothing to worry about. I have a backup plan because I'm also logged into my admin account in a browser, so everything was planned. Anyway, I saved it, right? So this is what I've been doing. Now I'm gonna click here. I could also add the visualization. I could also add the annotations to. Oops, this will edit thumbnails. That's not what I want to do. I want to actually edit the annotations. So when I click here, I'm back, right? I'm back to my visualization, and I could actually add my explanations on top of visualization. And to do that, I would just click on the visualization, and it would add a little pin, and I could just type in. Oops. Okay. All right. Okay. So let's click here. Hopefully this one will work. It's because when you have 4 visualization, it could happen. All right. There we go. Now this one is loading. This is an infographic. Okay. And it also depends on a bandwidth and on the time of the day, could be. Okay, here it is. Now I can add an explanation, but actually by clicking on this, right, I can just click on it and enter the text. See this? I just click on this, and then the little pop-up opens and I can type my text in here, right? But there is a downside of doing this, because if I'm updating, if I'm using the Storybook as a template for another data, I cannot guarantee that my visualization is going to be the same, right? I cannot guarantee that. Like, for instance, suppose that I click here and I'm going to put second quartile, right? I'm going to put second quartile. Okay, there we go. I labeled it, right? But then if I go and if I change my data, right, it's possible to replace the data set. Then there is no guarantee that this slice over here is still going to be the second quartile rank, right? So you have to be really careful when you do that. You have to plan. This takes a lot of planning ahead of time. So let me click OK. Well, I'm showing you what can be done, right? Because if I was doing it for the grade, I would just basically sit down and plan it more. So this is basically the idea behind the Storybook, and as a user, this is what I could do. So let's go back to the view mode. As a user, I would just click through my top findings, right? I would just click through these pages. That's one option for me, okay? And I can hide the annotations just by clicking on this button. And what else I could do? Suppose that the visualization in the Storybook don't answer my question. And this is a danger zone. Look, I can go in here and I can ask my own question, right? Suppose that I just want to, just anything. Suppose that I want to ask this one. I click here. I promise I won't keep you up all night. But what I'm showing you is that I can just create a new discovery, right? And then I can create a new display, and then I can add this new display to my storybook. See this? So I can ask additional questions, I can create additional displays, and I can further grow my storybook. See that? And I keep on going. Click add, and that's gonna keep me awake all night long. I promised I'm not gonna do it, and I'm not gonna do it, right? Okay, so this was the storybooks. Now we have to talk about something very important: sharing files. When we reach week 9 of the course, I'm going to create those folders for your team. So, for the sake of this example, let's assume that I'm a student in Spring 2080, data 610, session number XXX. And there are some teams, but I was assigned to team number 1. My instructor assigned me to the team number 1, right? So here I see the files and the subfolders for group 1. I'm in here, right? So what do I need to do to share the file with my team? Okay, let's show you this. This is the data, right? So now I want to share this file right here, restaurant inspection score, with my team. To do this, I can do this. I click here, and then this is an option, move, right? I select move. This is important. Now here, in a shared, I have to expand shared. I have to find my session. Well, for you it's going to be easier, because what you will see is that just the more sample data sets folder and the folder for your session. You click here, this is my group. I have to select this, and I'm going to do move. Be very, very, very careful, extremely careful. Do not change any of the permissions. Make sure that this inherit is checked, because if you do something by mistake, you could lose access to your own work. Trust me, it's highly possible that you could lose access to your own work. Okay? Then only super admin may be able to see the file. So let's just go click OK. And what will happen is that I will set up the permissions for all the team folders, and I have a tracking file starting from fall 2016, right? I'm going to set everything up, and I'll know who belongs to which group, right? If there is a problem with you seeing the folder for your group, contact me. It's a very quick fix. I've done it so many times, it's just so easy, right? I'll take care of it. Anyway, so this is a group. Right now, if anyone, let's just use Steven as an example. Suppose that Steve is a member of my group. He will have access to group 1. He will see this file as well. Something that both of us need to keep in mind is that Watson Analytics always sharing files. However, both of us cannot be editing the file at the same time. So, take a look at this. Not this, but take a look. Let me open it and refine. I'll show you something. I click here, and I do the refine, right? I make some changes. I made some changes, click, make changes, and that's it. I close the browser, and I left. Okay? I close the browser, but the problem is, my file is still open here, right? Then Steve logs into his account, and Steve opens the file and makes some changes. He's trying to save the file. He won't be able to. The reason is I still have the file open. Two people cannot edit the same file at the same time. I might not be at my computer at the moment. I may have logged out from my application, from my account. But the problem is, if it's open here, I still have it open. My account still has a lock on this file. So that means that my teammates won't be able to make changes. Before I exit the applications, I must go here and close everything that I have open. Anything that in the group folder that I have open, I must close it, right? So now how do you unshare the file? To unshare the file, you click on this ellipsis here, and you're going to do move, and you're going to move it to your personal folder. When you do it, you're going to receive a warning. The warning means that if I also shared a display or anything that's based on this file, my displays are not going to work anymore. That's what it's basically telling me, right? But now I'm going to click OK. I'm just going to click OK because that's what I want to do, right? So in other words, if I share the display, I also have to share the data file that I used to build the display. Very important. It cannot be a copy of the file with the same name. It has to be exact same file. So if I go in here, if I use this one, restaurant inspection score, to build my display, then if I delete this file here, my display or my discovery is going to be damaged permanently. There is no way to fix it. Even if I upload another copy of the file with the same name, I still cannot fix it. Every single file here has a unique identification number, even if this name is the same, right? It does not matter. It has to be exact same copy of the file. So you should be very careful when you delete the data file. If the data file has some discoveries associated with it, be careful. Think 5 times, delete once, right? Or don't do it. What could help you is that before you delete something, you create a subfolder in your personal area, call it trash, and move it there, right? Just in case you realize that you still may need it. Alright, so now I have to show you the dependencies. And to show you the dependencies, what I did was I copied some of the storybooks here in the group 1 folder, and I'm going to pretend to be a member of the group 1, and my teammates shared something with me, and I'll show you the problems. I like to show the students the problems and explain why there is a problem, right? So I have 3 copies of the storybook, actually 4, maybe 4 even. Anyhow, let's see. Let's start from this one, Goldfish Storybook. Well, you're gonna see that there is a problem here. And what is the problem? Let's take a look. This is a storybook, and I have my 3 displays. Looks good, right? But what I don't have is the data. So now what I'm gonna do, look at this. I'm clicking on the display, and I'm clicking on my storybook, right? Look at this. I see that I have 3 top findings, but I don't have a data set, right? This is the first thing I see. Now I'm going to look at this as an end user, and I click on the style here. What's happening? Why do I see this? So if you see this, you're going to remember that during the WebEx, Yelena showed us this. This is what she saw, and the reason is the data set is not there. How can I see something, right? When I click here, take a look at this. We can't access the data. The data has been deleted, or you don't have permission to access it. So if you get this error message, it means that you either deleted the data set, or the data set was not shared with you, right? Like in this case, I copied it from my admin account, but I intentionally forgot to copy the data set. I did it intentionally, okay? And same thing here. This is an error. Then when I click on here, in general, I should be able to preview the data and see which data sets are associated with my data. But I don't see anything because my data was not copied again, right? So this storybook has a problem, I know it. So let's close this, right? Now let's see what else we have. There are several problems. One problem is when I have only the storybook and nothing else, right? Let's see. That is group 1. Let's see what else I have. Oh, I created it as folders, right? And then I have an Oreo storybook, and I believe This one is complete. This one is complete. And this one is incomplete. There we go. Let's look at this one. For this one, I don't have data, right? There is no data for the student survival, but there is only the display, right? There's only the display. When I click here on my display, this is what's going to happen. Take a look. I see a problem. Well, I see that I have two top findings, but when I try to view them, I don't see anything. So if you see the error message, the display cannot be found, it's highly possible that your teammate either deleted the display or stopped sharing the display. Something along this line, right? Something happened, right? See this. The display may have been deleted, it may not have been shared, well, anything like that. So if you see this, you're going to remember that Yelena talked about the dependencies tonight, right? Same thing here, right? So now let's go ahead, let's close this, and then this is the correct one. Last semester we were able to pull data from the Twitter, and in the demonstration I created this storybook here. This is about the Oreo cookies. But I can use it, although I cannot discuss the Twitter data since it's no longer available, I can just use it as a storybook for the storybook purposes. See this? I share the three displays and I shared one data set with the user. So now when I click here, there is no problem. My data should display as expected, right? I should see my maps and I should see my table, right? The table, tabulated data. Now, I picked this one for a good reason. It's because this one has a map, right, by state. And I can drill up, right? I can drill up because what I do know is that in this storybook, I have data collected by country. So that's another demo of the hierarchy. Look at this. I go up, and now I'm going to see the tweet count by the country. See this? This is a country. And then I can drill down back by the state. And then there is also the city within the state, right? Well, just for a moment, just forget that this is tweet. Just think about it as some other data. You may have the geographical data depending on what you're analyzing, right? So this is a hierarchy. It allows you to drill down into the data. State, right? And table. This is what I should see. And now when I click here, I should see which displays were used. So this is a data preview that was used to create my display, right? Dataset name and the displays associated with the dataset. Remember that the storybook can be built on more than one dataset. You can have more than one dataset in the same storybook. All right. So let's go ahead and close this. So now you know this, right? You know these dependencies. What about the discoveries? No, this is optional. You don't have to share the discoveries because when you add the discovery to display, apparently it inherits the display. It just inherits, all right? But the main reason you want to create a discovery on the Discover tab because you want to be able to reuse it in other storybooks that you create, right? You want it to be reusable. So I want to make sure that you remember it. When you work in a group, you have to share the data and the displays. And in fact, you will have to share the discoveries. You will, because you're going to use them to build the displays as a team, right? So you have to share all the discoveries in here as well, right? I did not do it, but it's because the storybook by default it just inherits. Right, that was a storybook demo. So remember that if you see those errors, you remember this lecture. But in the slides I put some more in visualizations just to summarize when you use each. And similar here, right? This is a stacked bar plot. The only difference here, I added the multiplier. I added the gender, right? And you can also do the bubble plot, right? And the bubble plot. Here I'm just showing it by the counties. So each county is a bubble, and I'm just showing the student GPA, right? And what I could do, I could click on a certain point, and I could see the values at that point, right? Then here I summarize the variations for the pie charts for you. I summarize how to do the heat map. That way, after this class, if you have to use the heat map in your project, in your assignment, you're gonna have some notes on how to do that, right? Because it could take some explorations, right? And I summarized how to do the tables for you, and I also summarized the word cloud, right? The word cloud is basically, you can use it to show the frequencies. Actually, let's do it since the time allows. So let's go back to this here, and I'm going to go back to my personal folder, and this is my risk discovery. I'm gonna click here, and word cloud is another custom visualization usually. So when I click here, I would just need to scroll down, and then from the bottom I have to click on this thing here. I have to find it, and I have to click on the word cloud, right? Oops. Yeah. Okay. Word cloud. There we go. Basically, trust me, you're going to see the word cloud in a later coursework. But for right now, we're not going to do text analysis. We're just going to look at the frequencies. Right? So we're just basically looking at the number of people per county. And, well, at this point, it's not. Oh, okay, I see. So we want the words. We want to be this. We want this to be the words, but in here we want to be the rows. So let's go ahead and let's delete this, remove, and we're gonna do the rows because we want to use a different font size depending on the number of students that I have in a county. So this is the size. This determines the size of my text. See this? So here, this is larger. This is a larger font, means that I have more students in this county, right? Later on, in later coursework, this word size would mean the word frequency, right, in the text. Here, instead of the text, we have the frequency of the county in a file, right? The larger font means higher frequency, and I can click on each one, right? And I can click on each occurrence, and it's gonna show me the count, 294 perhaps, and I can save this, right? I'm saving it. Yes, there is something else I wanted to show you, and it's something that I found out about 1 week ago from reading the forums. Look here, I'm going to go to my data, and I'll show you something. It's in a risk student data set. Well, yes, I think it's gonna be here too. Take a look at this. I'm gonna go here, I'm gonna go refine. And this is interesting what Watson does with the categorical values that have more than 50 values. Take a look at this. If I click on the data quality score, it's gonna show unique for the county. I may have mentioned it last time that it shows unique for the county, but last time we had a class, I was not aware of the reason. And the reason it shows this field as unique is that the data has more than when the data has more than 50 values, right? In this case, I have more than 50 counties. Watson Analytics will show unique in the data quality section. Just remember this. It shows the quality section as unique.
Not started yet.
Column more than 50. What's that? Did somebody say something? Oh, wait a minute. I haven't showed you the bonus yet. It's not time to leave yet. Right? It's not time to leave yet. But I wanted to make sure that I showed you that because in the last class, I could not explicitly answer it, but I found the answer in discussion forums, right? So when you see unique, it means that the variable has more than 50 distinct values, all right? So now what I'm going to show you is the join. I have two data sets here. I have a data set product, which stores my product information, and I have a sales data set. Let me click on the refine. I'm going to click on the refine. Take a look at this. This is the sales data, and it has a date, right? The date, the customer ID, right? And it has a product number, sale ID, and the quality and the quantity. But the problem is I don't have any information about the product, right? What I see is a product number. And then I have a second data set that stores information on each product. So what I need to do now, I want to show the product name here. What happened? Guys, if you're not speaking, please be on mute. Thank you. All right. So now what I need to do is I need to be able to kind of like look up my product number here in another file that stores the product descriptions. Take a look at what I'm going to do now. I'm going to click on this plus sign, and I'm going to add the data set. And it's in my personal folder, and I call this product. Which I'm going to click on the product, and this is what I want to do, right? This one. And I'm going to click OK. Now I have these two, right? Here are my sales, and here are my product. The product has a product number, right? And this is the sales. I'm going to join this. Look, I'm going to click here, and then when I click here, it's showing me the field in the sales table, and this is the fields in the product table, right? Do you see this? So now to join this, take a look. I want to join on a product number. I click here, and I drag this arrow here. I created a join, right? See this? By default, this is called an equi-join. Equi-join is going to find the matching product, right? I have a project number in the sales, and it will find the matching product description in the product table. See this? And the product category. See this? This is too much. There are different types of joins. I could also show the sales record if there is no matching product information, right? That's going to be the left join, but in here I think it's called A something. Here it is. See this? Right now I'm only showing the matching rows. There is another option, A plus matching rows. A plus means that if I have some sale information that does not have a matching product information, right? And I still want to include my sales information. This is A plus. B plus means that if I have some products that don't have the sales information, I still want to include the product. So that's what it is basically, right? So I have three types of joins. Unfortunately today I can only join two. I cannot join three. Something else to keep in mind is that to save it I have to give it different name. Oops. See this? You're gonna get this error. When you click on the save, you're gonna get this error. It's because you cannot save it with the same name as one of your data set. You have to do save as. And when you do the save as, it's gonna give you an option to give it a name. Alright, I'm gonna name it as sale products. Okay, this is what I'm gonna call it. I'm gonna click save, right? This is something extra that you can do. But the problem is you can only do one, right? You can only do two rather. You are limited. You can join only two. But some good news. See this download? See this error? Maybe we could download this join data, huh? And then upload it again and join again, huh? This was not in there. This workaround before was not there, right? So sometimes we could think outside the box. We can download this join data, upload it again, and then do another join, right? If you wanted to. Well, I have not tried it, but in theory, the limit is 2. We cannot join more than 2. But now it's supporting 2. And I can also apply additional filters on my join data, and I can also define the calculations, and I can also ask questions about it, and I can create custom visualizations on it, right? So that's about the joining. Let's see what else we have. Oh, here I put together the summary for you. Dashboard versus infographics, right? So remember, infographics is one long page, and you can apply the filter to NVIDIA Visual Visualization. Just by clicking on it, you go in the focus mode, or you can define a filter on the whole page. Dashboard has multiple tabs, and both dashboards and infographics are interactive, and you can use them in the storybooks, right? So I just summarize how to create an infographic, right? I like to put a little summary, and then here it's an explanation about how to edit visualization in the focus mode, right? And remember, I showed you that the focus mode is just gonna open it as a pop-up, right? And you just get to see it. This is similar to the discovery, somewhat similar, except you don't see the related visualizations, right? So, and here I just showed you how to add the annotations, right? We did that. Now here I'm just showing you the storybook elements when it is in a display mode, and when it is in a display mode, right? And when it is in the edit mode. And you see that little pencil. If you see the pencil, it means that it's in the view only mode. And if you see the eyeglasses, it means that it's now in the edit mode, right? So here, as you can, I'll click and preview the data that was used to build the storybook, and I just labeled for you the dataset information. It's supposed to match the corresponding dataset information on the data page. And here I'm just showing you what you can do with the storybook. Like basically, if I go back to oops, I have to go back to the landing page, right? Here this is a display, and then I can click on and here this is a menu. I can click here, and then I can do the rename. I can so move means to share with my team, right? And delete means delete, but you should be really careful. Another thing that you want to do is back up your stuff that you share. Like for example, what I could do, take a look at it. I want to share it with my team. Instead of move to, I could go to refine. I could click on refine, and then I can click on save as, and I can save a copy to my group folder, right? Save as, and then I save a copy to the team folder. I can do that, right? It takes a little time to load, but just keep that in mind that you can save a copy. And always back up a copy, because this is a true story. I had a team where some work got lost about couple days before the assignment was due, so that was not good. But you want to make sure that you always have a copy, right? One thing that you cannot save as a copy is a storybook. Storybook cannot be saved as a copy, and I checked on that. Alright, so see, I'm showing you again how to do it. You expand the shared folder, right? You will see your course folder, and this is going to be a team folder. Of course, it's going to be the team where you're assigned to, right? There we go. And this is how you share it with the group, right? Because, yep, it's now saving it. But on my admin account, I created a totally different storybook. Oops. Now it's gonna take some. Okay, here it is. This are more storybooks. Yes, and I'll have to show you the template side also. But let me get in here. The personal folder. There are more storybooks that I created, right? This is a student academic performance finding storybook. I created it and I was going to show you. So I click here, right? And trust me, this is looks like more like I was going. It looks like more than something that could be submitted, right? So here I'm doing this step, and this is a 4-step finding. I have to go back to the first one. So this is my first step finding, right? And here I'm trying to compare the student breakdown. I'm trying to look at students' GPA and how does the student break down by the student by quartile and by the gender, right? So here I'm trying to put the summary of the average GPA for students who are at risk of the academic failure who are not at risk. Here I'm just presenting the findings on the absences, and here I'm just looking at the student by the quartile. Here I'm looking at the breakdown, right? I'm looking separately at parental status, the parents are divorced, person are married, and I'm looking at the percentage of students with divorced parents who are at risk of academic failure, and so on, right? And I can navigate on different tabs, and now I have the decision tree model, and I have a drivers of the risk. So here, basically, I'm looking at the risk factors. This is my first tab. My second tab, I'm looking at the student GPA. And notice here I can add my picture, and this is a summary. For the summary, I can add that I want to summarize my GPA by a parental status, perhaps. That's what I'm doing, right? Then I have a model for my GPA, and then I have a breakdown, the GPA by county. And I'm looking at the separate map for the student at risk and not at risk. See this? This is what you could do, right? Basically, to do that, you would just go to the map visualization and add a multiplier. I want to look separate. And my other finding is going to be cost. Well, yes, I think it's a, let's see, no, that's an infographic, actually, right? That's an infographic, and I'm looking at the number of absences, right? Here I'm looking at comparison the number of absences. And the next one, I believe I'm looking at cost. And I added the picture here. I can add my picture. Basically, the picture was added to the display. In the display, you can add the image URL. And then when you add the display to your storybook, if the display has picture, the picture will be added here. Alright, so this is a summary of the student cost, right? This is what you could do. And I'm going back the home page of the storybook, right? So this is just my example. Now I'm gonna show you the expert examples. All right. So let's go back to the non-admin, and let me show you something what you could do. Expert storybook. This as a template. It's not something that you're going to turn into grading, of course not. But this is something that you could look at to start with. Watch. I'm going to click here, and I'm going to click on Analytics Exchange. So this site is like a library of templates. And I have my expert storybooks collection here. So I can select any of them. Oops, it's still loading. That's in data, and then I'm gonna get the list of storybooks here. And what I'll need to do is I'll need to click on one of them that I'm interested in, and it will add the storybook, copy of the storybook data and displays to my personal area. Let me click on view all. Uh-oh. Yep. It's doing it. Okay. Well, sometimes it's a browser. I can try to do it on my admin account and see. Sometimes it's a browser. The preferred browser is Google Chrome. But the reason I'm not doing it because I wanted to be logged into 2 accounts at the same time. Okay, so take a look at this. What I could do is, well, see this folder called imported in my personal folder? When you add the storybook from the expert site, it's going to create this folder called imported and a separate subfolder for each expert storybook that you're going to import. Is it finished? No. Okay, so let's do it from here. Okay, I'm right now in my personal folder. Let's try this, and let's try Analytics Exchange, and it's gonna load. Well, it's still loading. Well, it's highly possible that there could be something going on their end, because they have been doing a bunch of updates on the other cloud. Okay, so let's just assume that I selected the Storybook and clicked on it, right? For the purpose of this demo, let's just assume that I clicked on it. I find the Storybook that I like and I click on it. Then, when I go back to my page here, I'm going to see in a personal folder, I'm going to see the imported folder, and inside the imported folder, I will see a separate subfolder for the Storybook that I import. See this? This is called CMO dashboard data. This is a Storybook that I imported before for the earlier demo I did. Here, I click here. These are the displays that are in that Storybook, right? These are the displays, and the displays are in the subfolder, but imported folder has the actual displays. So watch, I have an imported folder where I have my Storybook, and I also have a subfolder that contains the displays and the dataset from the Storybook. I say datasets plural because it's possible to have the Storybook built on more than one dataset. It's possible. Okay, so I click here. This is the expert findings, right? They're using the built in the datasets, the data that comes with Watson Analytics. But for you, you just look at what they do, and maybe it will give you some ideas on what you can do with your data, right? Again, you're not gonna turn it in, but you can explore to learn more, right? You can explore just by looking at this. See, those are the available visualizations and what they can show you. And see, right now I'm in a view mode. I can click here and I can read the annotations and so on, right? And you should be really careful with what you put in annotation, because, well, this is fine, but if I put something like this as my maximum, if I am analyzing this, if I'm reloading my data, there's an option to do that. The point in question may no longer be my maximum. So that's something to watch, right? Alright, so I showed you this. Let's see if it's still... Oh, there we go, it finished loading. Now, take a look, actually. This is what's going to happen. I like this account receivable Storybook. I'm going to click on it. Right? I clicked on it. And now I'm going to do import. Make sure that it says free. Well, it should be, but it's always good to check. We have a lot of surprises in this world. Alright. Import. There we go. Now it's gonna create related assets. So that actually means it's creating related displays and a data set, right? So at your leisure, you want to explore this, right? And in the meantime, there are two storybooks that have a video. These two storybooks, IBM Maximo, they have a video, and I put a link here on YouTube video where the presenter actually explains to you what's in a storybook. So you might be interested. I put it here, right? So here I'm doing a detailed explanation what is personal area and what is the shared area. And I'm going to remind you again, this is what, so I'm going to remind you again what not to do, right? This is a big note. Anything that put in the root of shared folder is going to be deleted for numerous reasons. First of all, we don't want your work to be visible and modifiable by anyone in the system. We're talking about 500 plus users. We don't want to create a mess. We want everything organized. We need to know who created the work and so on. Your team members should not be searching the whole system to access your file, they should look for it in a folder that was created for your team, right? And if your TA wants to help you, he or she should not be looking all over the system. He or she should be looking at the shared folder instead. So that rule is going to help every one of us. So this is for everyone's benefit. We need to follow the rules, right? So that way your TA will know where to look for your files to assist you. We're going to know whose work it is. We are only going to be modifying the files that we created, and so on. There are numerous reasons. Then also, when you're adding the displays to create the storybook, you only see what's your work. You don't want to, by accident, to be changing and modifying someone else's work, and you don't want someone else modify your work. And there are a lot of issues that we want to avoid, right? And what I did was I put some error messages here so that you know what they mean. There are dependencies, remember? You cannot share the discovery but not share the dataset, and so on. So this is, guys, for you. I'll give you a copy of the slides to keep. And what I also did was I put some useful pages to the documentation, right? So there's 3 pages. And I believe they're already in the classroom, but it's good to have them in the slides as well. So now it's time for question and answers. Other questions? Then Helena starts asking questions, right? Questions? Well, I would like to see questions. This is an excellent opportunity. Is there any challenges that you may have run into over the last 4 weeks? If you ran into any challenges with anything, I would like to know, because it will help me plan future lessons, and it will just identify some areas where more explanation is needed or anything like that. So feel free, type in the chat any challenges with what you have been doing so far. It could be like anything that you need any questions that you may have or anything like that. Huh? Anything else? Anything? This is your opportunity. Let me go and check the chat if I have any questions in there. Oh, good. Excellent. I don't see any questions, but it's not excellent. I would like to see questions. Because if there are no questions, then I could assume that everybody has been doing well on their assignments, right? Is it safe to assume that everybody is doing great? Everybody is an expert in Watson Analytics by now? Steve, is there anything I may have missed? Guys, are there any questions? Oops, I'm gonna cancel it. I canceled it. But I showed you what it does, right? It adds the imported folder, and it's gonna add all of this data set, but I canceled because it was taking a long time. Anyway, so are there any questions? Do you still hear me? I hope you still hear me. Do you still hear me? Steve, are there any questions? I don't see any in the chat. Do you still hear me? Guys, do you still hear me?
Yeah, you're still loud and clear.
Yeah, I was wondering if there are any questions. I don't see any questions.
I don't either.
Is there anything I may have missed?
No, I think, again, very thorough coverage. A lot of stuff, of course, to absorb, but practice is the key. Try some things, take a chance on some things, learn from your trial so that you're ready for the assignment.
Yep. I guess that's the way to go.
Okay. Well, thank you, Elena. And remember, this recording will be made available through your professors, and Elena will send the slides to accompany that.
Yes.
All right. Thanks, and have a good evening.
Thank you. Good evening, everyone.